listening to the First City Lax podcast, brought to you every week from the Florida Panhandle. Coach John and Coach JP explore the best and worst of lacrosse on the Gulf Coast, so strap your helmets on and let's go.
Welcome back to First City Lacrosse. I am your host, Coach John, and this is part 2 of our interview with Casey Mcdonald and Eric Ruppel, head coach of the new men's lacrosse team at Emory and Henry University in Virginia. This is where we get into some of the higher level college stuff, including staffing, practice plans, and what players can expect when they roll into a college program. So definitely check this one out. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, go back and listen to part 1 first, because otherwise none of this is going to make any sense. All right, if you're ready, I'm ready, and we're going to hit play on this thing and let's go.
That's right. So, okay, Eric, part 1 is, what would you tell a parent or player on, how to prepare for this? And part 2 we're going to dig into a little bit of the recruiting process. I don't want to dig into it too far because I think, we all kind of agree it's changing by the day, if not the minute right now. But we have to deal with it. The parents and the players, They have to deal with it. So I think it's important for us to address it with the absolute best information that we have. So let's go. What do you think?
All right. So first question, how do you properly prepare yourself for college lacrosse? And I think that's, I'm gonna make some club directors mad today. All right.
Good. I'm sure I'll get some hate mail for it. It'll be fun.
So I'm a firm believer in the European model of sport. And that is basically just concepts, then game. Then concepts, and game. I saw a stat the other day that all the youth European academy teams for basketball are only going to like 2 or 3 tournaments a year.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're big time tournaments, right? But 2 or 3 a year, their volume is so low because they are just overemphasizing practice. And currently the American system for most sports, we are not unique. And baseball probably is the worst.
It's the opposite.
Game.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a practice here. Oh, you're going to be in Baltimore Saturday, Sunday. You're going to go up to Long Island Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Then there's half a day off. We've got a scrimmage against this one. And it's just these kids
take a rowboat to Indiana for the next game, and then I want you to jump on an airplane, and you guys are going to help. You're going to get your own pilot's license and fly there. You're going to go to the Dominican Republic and learn. No,
absolutely.
There's too much. Just too much.
We all follow the same comics on Instagram. But it's too much, and I think there's no replacement for game awareness, and that is where it is learned. But there becomes a tipping point where it just becomes game awareness. That's great. You are the smartest kid on the field who can't catch or throw. You're the smartest kid on the field who can't cover off ball. You're the smart. You see everything. If that ball comes near you and you pick it up as a ground ball, you're throwing a dot to the midi, streaking for the clear. But you can't guard your guy.
Right.
And we see a lot of that at the youth level. And I'm not singling out any single club because everybody has to deal with the monster that we all created as lacrosse coaches, club directors. We were so hungry for. I remember when I was a kid, there was like 3 tournaments on the West Coast. We were all so hungry for more playing. And now we've got, if you looked at my recruiting calendar for my staff, I don't think I'll see them from May 31st to 4th of July. I won't see them.
You got them all spread out?
We have to.
100%.
It's no choice. Logos.
There's too many events.
There's
too many events and not enough days. Yeah.
But I think because of that, and because the club scene has become so oversaturized that there's just not available. And again, this is the pot calling the kettle black. I coached in Texas. We practiced 2 days a week. We did. We practiced 2 days a week. We went to 4 club tournaments. We were no better. But once you get to that point where it's like, all right, you're the real deal, you're going to college, I would completely focus on your health, because we get these kids so incredibly injured. Most freshmen don't make it to their freshman spring because our trainers are already dealing with their injuries from high school, and I used to coach near Minnesota, and those Minnesota hockey boys had no hips. They spent a year getting hip mobility.
Yeah.
So get your body right. The minute you're going, get your body right. If you can afford it, go to one of the specialized training facilities, not just like a flash in the pan anybody, but like one of those accredited that has turned out some products, and get some individualized coaching for your body. Because again, just because you're that prolific with your stick does not mean you know how to squat to proper depth. You may not be able to hang clean yet. These are going to be movements that are going to really either amp you up or deter you in the weight room, because weights are mandatory at Division II and Division I. Division III, unless you're under, Salisbury and Matt 9 is making you go. Some of these schools, you may never touch the weight room at D3, depending on it.
You might not even have access to it.
You might not even have access. Now at Salisbury, you definitely do. Shout out, Matt.
Well, yeah.
But get your body right, because the biggest deterrent we see from a freshman coming in is hang clean day. And I used to teach at progressionary, most do, but getting those progressions, that could be really daunting for a kid who, I don't care if he can blaze the ball 100 miles an hour as a freshman, if he can't do it in the weight room and guys are looking at him like, what are you doing? And then same is, make sure that you understand your flaws as a player and that you have to work on them. I think there are some pretty decent stats that are bare minimums for an athlete. And I know every program has their barometers. And when you're being recruited by those schools, they'll tell you their barometers, and it's just fine. But you better be able to, bench the standard marks, right? 1.5 times your body weight. If you're front squatting, great. If you're back squatting, better be times 2. And then for deadlift, if you don't have a hex bar, I'm not going to fault you. Maybe 2.5. We deadlift with hex bars, but make it so you're not showing up to campus and you're just benching the bar, which you'd hope a lot of these guys aren't, but you'd be amazed. At all these,
I would not be amazed. Having coached at the high school level, I would not be amazed at all.
Yeah,
these individual workouts that they think they're doing, that they think is cool because that's what they see on TikTok and Instagram, whatever. It is not the move. You have to listen to what he's talking about right here. You have to take care of your engine. You have to fuel it. You have to work on it. You have to listen to the experts and follow the best. He's 100% right.
Right. We want to see that you can box jump at least 12 inches, I think, is a minimum. If you're up to 18, 24, even better. But you better be able to box jump at least to 12 inches. And then we'd like you running around at minimum 17 miles an hour would be pretty good for your average player. To put it in context, Division I midfield All-Americans run about 20.9, 21. But 17, 18 coming out of the gate is good for a freshman, because once those college strength and conditioning coaches get a hold of you, it'll get much better, much quicker, because that's now a focal point. But coming in with those minimum standards means there's something there. There's something we can work with. Figure out what that school's wall ball test is. They're all different. Make sure you can do it coming in. We don't have the rule this year because we showed up late, but we wouldn't give helmets until you could pass your wall ball test. Do you really want to be the last guy with your high school helmet at practice?
What a great incentive. Wow. I love that.
So, and these are minimums. They weren't what I would call hard tests for, college sophomore, a 50-point guy, 100% point career guy. Those aren't hard. But the guy coming in who has no concept of the physicality, the size differences, the speed differences, those are minimum standards. And I think a lot of sport, not just lacrosse, but a lot of sport are taking back doors to those. Whereas I see, because I have two sides of the same coin. I work heavily in the strength and conditioning world as well. You have these dedicated gyms of former pro athletes or high level, PhD masters in this, focus on that are there to help you. And the people that are using them, it shows. And the people that aren't, it shows. If you just want to go to your local gym and do a couple bicep curls and you're calling it a day, you're going to struggle. That's awesome. Oh, man, you can bicep curl 35 pounds. We're so happy for you. You're about to get punted like a football the first time you run through a dodge. Mm-hmm. So we see those things, and and every program, to my knowledge, at a high level has those standards. We will again, starting next year, we'll have those standards where it's, hey, if you don't do this, you probably don't get that. Everybody's got their inner workings of motivation and leadership, but I think those are the minimums. Those are some data points that you really want to focus on. Now if you're the goalie, mm-hmm. and you can find some strobe lights, let's see what your times are. That's all we care about there. But again, a big stat for me when I'm recruiting goalies, runouts, right? And you can see it in our film through 4 games. We've got a goalie who's very good at runouts. He's probably caused at least 6 possession-ending plays a game. Great. That's 6 times we didn't have the ball that we do now, because he can run out 15 yards really fast. Mm-hmm. That's just change of direction. And how many of these coaches, I've been to so many club practices, how many of these club coaches are working on just change of direction? Mm-hmm. Now, at the college level, you talk to a strength and conditioning coach, COD is one of the first things out of their mouth.
Yep.
But at the club level, getting these kids ready, change. You can run a 5-10-5 with a ball in your stick. I do all the time. Mm-hmm. We do. Hey, let's make sure that you get that stick to the outside, that you're rolling back correct, that you're tucking it while you're doing a 5-10-5.
What my boys said? The one thing they wish they worked more on in high school, the number one thing, they said there were a lot of things, but the number one thing they wish they worked more on in high school as they moved to play in college, you know what it was? You just kind of hinted to it.
Dodging.
100% dodging. These kids, when they practice, they stand 15 feet in front of the goal with their feet set, and they just throw ball after ball after ball, and they get really good at that. And how many times are you going to find yourself in a position with your feet set 15 feet in front of the goal in a game? Never.
I discourage my kids from doing that. They want to stay late and they want to shoot and they want to do this. I'm like, cool. Put some cones down, put your glove, put this glove, make that a cone, whatever, and change direction every single time. You're never going to stand there and have your hands free. It's just not going to happen.
The biggest problem you see with a lot of offensive midfielders and why they start as D-mids those first couple of years has nothing to do with talent and everything to do with 2-step and 3-step split dodging. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I have to shout out, I don't know them personally.
Every midfielder right now in high school is like, oh God, I'm taking it personally.
Yeah. They might have just closed the app. They might have just closed it.
They're just like, I'm done.
my assistant coach got to talk to Deemer class in Florida, so I didn't get to talk to them. I'm sorry, but I am going to shout them out. The things they're doing on social media right now are phenomenal because it's such a breath of fresh air for the game because they are focusing on those things, and don't be afraid to steal it. I mean, we take variations of it, or they're doing a variation of something that I do, and I'm like, oh, I like that. Let's just try it, but. 2-step, 3-step split dodging, rollbacks are almost, every kid wants to look cool and do it, but do they know how to do it correctly? Do they know how to 3-step decelerate? Do they know how to tuck their stick? Do they know how to shoot off the hip after? And we
come out loaded. Do you know how to come out loaded?
Yeah. Right. And we focus on it entirely, but how many coaches can really say, and I was a high school coach once upon a time, middle school coach. I've done it all. I mean, further than this too. Shout out Mexico. But
that's right.
But we focus on it at every level to a point because, again, our lives get busy. Little Timmy has band practice and mom's aunt's in town and he can't make practice. And you always have to change it and juggle on the fly. But there are a couple staple things. So like with us, when you were talking about, well, what do individuals look like? Well, for the offense, a lot of time it's dodging.
Yeah.
Because that's our big, because if you cannot dodge your guy, you will not win at this level. You can manufacture it at other levels, but at the college level where guys are coming down on you and pressuring, and everybody's stick is good, everybody is fast, everybody is strong, you have to be able to dodge to cause a slide.
Well, we teach it on the defensive side. Hey, win the one-on-one battle, win the one-on-one matchup. But it's just as true, if not more so, on the offensive side. Win the one-on-one battle. The way you do that is stick control, ball control, dodging, like all the tools.
Footwork.
Yeah, and footwork. All the basic fundamental part of it that
with your head up.
Yep, that you don't practice because you spent the last 10 minutes after practice 15 feet in front of the goal with your feet set, just throwing it in the back corner.
Just ripping corners, coach. I just want to rip corners.
Yep. All right.
Sorry,
Casey, what were we going to say?
No, I was going to say, before we transition to the point we really got here initially for, and to kind of transition to it, I really hope our audience is listening to this from this next point. Look at when you're recruited and you're recruiting, you're going through your process, you got to see now just how much organization it takes to run a collegiate lacrosse program. Mm-hmm. You listen to Eric talk about it, between the analytical, the psychological, the film, the weights, the actual on-field, Team Mexico on top of that. Oh, and you got to let them go to class. You've got to look at that and what it takes for a collegiate coaching staff to be organized. And you got to ask those kind of questions in your recruiting process. How organized are you as a coaching staff? What is your roster depth? What is your load management? What does your practice schedule look like? All of these things that we just covered are things that you need to be thinking about and processing through your recruitment. It's 1000% something I think that everybody's going to take away from this, is just how much bigger the picture is than they actually thought, because they only know their high school or they only know their club.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's shift gears into the recruiting part of it. I have a question that I have to ask. One of the listeners demanded that I ask, because I told them I was going to have a college coach on, and they said, "Okay, can you please ask him this?" So here's the question.
All right.
Showcases or prospect days?
Oh, what a question.
Okay. Or both or none. Like, let's hit it. Should a player go to showcases? Should a player go to prospect days? Or should a player just collect film, put a 1-minute highlight reel together, and say, "Coach, take a look at me"?
There are, and every answer is going to be gray area, because there's such a barometer of showcase. Mm-hmm. There is such a barometer of prospect camp. Mm-hmm. And nothing against any other NCAA team in the country. I am running a prospect camp for a drastically different reason than School B is running a prospect camp. I got 16, 18 guys. We need a full roster. You're going to see a little bit more love at a prospect camp done by those type of schools. Now, are they all beneficial? 100%. And what you're starting to see now, and this has kind of always been the case, but a lot of prospect camps will have other coaches at it. We'll use a Division I school up north that Casey's familiar with. They invite us to their prospect camp. Coach Clinton played for me at Out of State. He has to, but those will happen. There are some phenomenal showcases in America that you are going to see the best of the best. You are going to see it on the field. You are going to see it from the coaches on the sideline. Those you come correct for. ML8 runs a good one. There's a few in Baltimore that run good ones. There's a few in the Midwest. We got a lot of guys from showcases in the Midwest. There are some drawbacks from the coaching perspective. Showcases, we're watching just individual talent and individual effort. We're not necessarily seeing what the brain can do. We're seeing that you can dodge. We're seeing that you can shoot. We're seeing that you can guard. We're seeing you can save the ball. We're seeing you can win a face-off. But we're not getting to see what you can do in a system. And I don't know a single NCAA program in the nation that is not some sort of system. So those are good. If you want to start testing the waters individually as a player and going, all right, I think I can do this, showcases, prospect camps, the way to go. The one thing I really like about prospect camps, and I kind of said it, was the individual attention based on program or surrounding area programs. You're going to see how School A operates in every capacity, maybe for a short amount of time. But you're going to see how School A operates. You're going to see how School B operates. You're going to see how School C operates. At regular showcases, you're not necessarily going to see that, but you're going to be able to give yourself a barometer based on talent throughout the country. Because a lot of those high-end showcases, the Mavericks and all that, they're bringing them in from, we do play lacrosse now in Alaska and Hawaii, and I hope to God some of those kids show up, all 50 states. You're going to know where you are real quick in one of those higher showcases. In any showcase, really, you're going to know where you stand because now you're out of your system that you learned in high school, and you got to go based on instinct alone. Prospect camps, I think, have a really, really fun place in sports. And it is one of those that I do think lacrosse does probably better than I think lacrosse does better than any other sport is accessibility to college coaches, because we got to be at everything. And you get, those Friday showcases before tournaments. What are we doing? We're coaching you. We're probably doing our favorite drill because we've just done it 6 weeks in a row and we don't want to think of a new one. But you're going to get to see our favorite drill.
Just got off the plane.
My bag was lost.
That's right.
Yeah, I took
it's
the
going to
Uber
be
to the
new
field.
to everybody else.
Yeah, it's going to be new to everybody else.
It's right there.
Same man ground ball. I ran for 6 weeks.
That's right.
I agree.
But it is always, and what you'll find with these college coaches, and I apologize if I'm pulling a fourth wall on some of them, but you're going to see their favorite drill, and that's probably a staple drill of their program and them themselves as a coach. And hey, man, if you could do that drill, great, awesome. But I like both. But I'm going to give you a better answer on prospect camps.
I love it. Hit me.
Here it comes. I know it's coming.
I think when you're starting to be recruited, and we do have this problem in all of sports, lacrosse is no different, where you're looking for the name, right? Oh, Virginia. Ooh, Duke. Ooh, ACC school. Ooh, this. Ooh, Ivy Leagues, right? Big in our sport, Ivy Leagues are good at only a couple things. Lacrosse is one of them. When you have the kid, and I know it did just snow there, but I'm going to use Pensacola as the example. When you have the kid who was born and raised in Pensacola, Florida, and Dartmouth reaches out, that sounds awesome. It snows a lot in New Hampshire. And these kids and these club recruiting directors don't necessarily take into that. So what my advice, and I talk every time at parent Q&As about this, I tell kids to find an area of the country they can see themselves living in. If you love the snow, well, Northwest Nazarene is in Boise. It's a great place. It's awesome. If you find an area of the country and then you find a couple degrees, I always tell kids, do not narrow it down to one. Have about 2 or 3. I couldn't tell you a single kid that comes into college and graduates the same direction. They usually switch it up once or twice. Have a couple different degrees in mind, and then start your hunt. And that includes D1, D2, D3, MCLA, NAIA. And now that I'm in this part of the world, the NCLL. Did I say that right? National College Lacrosse. Yeah, the other
National College Lacrosse League.
The not MCLA. I'm sorry, I was an MCLA guy. But find those schools, because then you found an area of the country you feel comfortable and want to go to, and you found some schools with your degrees. Go attack those schools' prospect camps. And it might be a hodgepodge. It might be an NAIA. It might be a D1. It might be a D3. It might be all over the place. But you've already knocked out two very important higher education stats. You found a place you wanted to live, and you found a degree that suits you. And because some of these degrees, the world is changing. I couldn't tell you how many times I saw a kid who would reach out to us on the prospect forum and say, man, I really want aerospace engineering. And I'm like, well, there's about 5 schools in America you can go to, and that's it. And they're like, well, but you have engineering. We do. We don't have aerospace engineering.
Yeah.
Mechanical.
Yeah. So, and find those. And once you find those areas of the country that you like, and once you find those degrees you like, go to everybody's prospect camp. But if you're just going to prospect camps to go and you don't really know much about the area, or you just wanted to go because it was a high name and it was exciting and you wanted the penny, you're probably not going to have as good of an experience. You'll be motivated nonetheless, but you're probably not going to take the extra steps in making sure you play for that program. And, we see it all the time in I'm going to bring it up, but we see it a lot of time in the portal. The most successful portal kids for schools are the ones that didn't like where they were in the first place. And it almost had nothing to do with the school. It was usually the area of the country. Maybe it was too far from home. Maybe it was too close to home. Maybe they had a form of your degree, but not like nail on the head. Maybe you got a chance to do an alumni relations dinner and you found out that this degree really isn't for me and it's really specialized. And now you want something a little bit more basic and you could save a little bit of money. Because, we'll see what happens. But contrary to House versus NCAA, D2 and D3 lacrosse are not changing. You got to be able to afford school or have the grades to do it. So we see those as the successful stories in the transfer portal. Now, obviously, the 1% are always the 1%. Kid that went to Brown, then wanted to transfer to Duke or Maryland, we get those. Those are 100% player implication deals. But the kids we see in the portal are the kids who said, oh, well, I went up to the Northeast and I really liked Virginia, so I wanted to come home. Or I really wanted to be recruited to this area of the country first, but then a school in Florida said yes, and I just got hot all the time. Whatever the case may be, you have to factor those in. And I see it often from recruiting directors at the club level who are just kind of excited to talk to a college coach and aren't really putting the kids' own thoughts into their head, and vice versa. Maybe that kid isn't willing to have those conversations and just goes, well, I want to play. Because what do we always hear? Well, I just want to play. Well, great. Well, you want to play until your life depends on it, right? The future of your success depends on it. And then it becomes, well, we could have solved that problem 2 years ago when you were a sophomore and you sat down with your club's recruiting director and he went, well, where do you want to live? What do you want to do? Take the college out of the equation. Where do you want to live? What do you want to do? And I think you'll find substantially better results in those aspects, because then you're going to get a kid who already wants to be in the area, wants those degrees, will probably be a little bit more open to alumni engagement and those dinners, and probably seek them out a little bit better than the kid who just went to school to play lacrosse.
We had a former pro player and a coach who used to live here and now lives in South Carolina. And both his kids are, they were outstanding players, of course, while they were here. But one of the things, when we would bring him out to help coach our high schoolers, just, occasionally. And one of the things he told them, and told my own boys, and it really stuck with me, and I try to offer the same advice because it's so critical. It's right along the same lines that you just said. He said, imagine you've picked a school for lacrosse and you tear your ACL, God forbid, you have a season or career-ending injury your first practice. Are you going to stay at that school? Are you going to come out of there with a degree that you can use? Or are you stuck now in a place you don't want to be, in a degree program you're definitely not going to finish? You will have wasted all that money and that time, versus if you have some sort of catastrophic event, or you get there, you decide, I can't play because of grades, or I can't play because, or I just don't want to play anymore. I've lost the passion, or it's just, I want to be focused on my career, which we see. You have to be motivated to stay at that school and finish that degree. And I think that's such good advice. And what you said is such good advice for both parents and for players, because players, they are going to see, like kind of what you talked about. They're going to see those big name schools come calling if they're a talented player. And they need to realize that D1 it's not necessarily D1 or bust. If D1 is the thing, then yeah, your coaches and your parents can help you get there. But there are really, really good schools out there. They're going to really help you become just a great human being. And lacrosse is not going to be something you get to play forever. At some point, every single one of us, we take the helmet off. We hang up the cleats for the last time. We may not know it, but it happens. And if you don't have that degree to go along with your college experience, oh man, it's tough to look back and say like, wow, did I waste my time? Like, so
recruit the school, recruit the program. You have to recruit the school first, then you recruit the program second. And lacrosse coaches, obviously this is a lacrosse podcast. People are gonna be like, wait, that doesn't make sense. You're a lacrosse focused podcast. We are, but we're an individual and we're a betterment focused podcast, right? So you have to do the things from those levels, and you have to be able to see the path and compartmentalize it and understand which part of the path you're on at that time.
Well, Casey, you've known me for a while, and Eric, I know you and I just met here, but Casey will tell you, Eric, that one of the things I have always tried to teach is be a good human first.
Absolutely.
Be a good human first. It's kindness takes zero effort. It takes zero effort to be a good human. Just show up, put a smile on your face, and do the thing that you know you're supposed to do. Don't be a jerk. Just be a good human. And look, if you're doing that, everything else is going to fall into place.
Yeah, and we talked about it before on an episode. You have to be a good person because, especially Division II and Division III coaches, they're recruiting for their job. They're recruiting to stay employed. And if you come to campus and you're a problem, you will no longer be on campus because the coach is not going to put you before his job. And you better be ready for that. Eric and I have seen it over and over, and we will send the text, oh my God, did you see what happened to so-and-so? And, oh, did you see how they handled it? And it's just, it's such a small community. We all know each other. And this will be probably going into Eric's recruitment time and in the changes of the rules. But now it's so much more information, so much more readily available that if it's the joke, like the book that George tries to sell back in Seinfeld that was been in the bathroom. If you've been flagged in the lacrosse community, in the lacrosse recruiting community, you've been flagged. Like if people know you're a problem, you're not going to go where you think you want to go. And now it's even more important. So now I think it's time to let Eric talk about what we really kind of came here for is the rules that have changed. It's the last time you and I were on the episode, John.
Yeah.
I mean, we had
3 weeks ago. Was it 3 weeks ago?
Literally, I told Eric about it and we got on it. And he goes, well, talk to me in 4 days because that's changing. And literally it changed 4.5 days.
I said that jokingly because the NCAA conference was going on.
Right.
Nothing major happened.
But
the one that is wild to me, and I missed it over summer because I think I was legitimately in Mexico City when it happened. They have opened up communication lines prior to June for D2, September for D1 of your junior year. It's a cordial rule now. So prior to when this happened over summer, we'll use the example for current. If a 2027 reached out to me, I had the basic auto response, cannot reach out to you until X amount of date of your junior year. But hey, if you're interested, fill out the form, come see our prospect camp, so on and so forth. The NCAA kind of did away with that. And I worry about that for a couple reasons. But I do like the idea that you're not leaving a kid in the dark anymore. I think it's still too early. I witnessed when I was at Centennial with a player who back in those days you could commit in 8th grade, and it was wild that happened.
Oh, wow.
It worked out for him very, very well, but it was wild that happened at the time. But now, as long as you communicate, or they communicate with you, you can communicate back. You still can't have any on campus. You still can't do any offers until those dates. I don't like that Division II and Division I are offset dates. I always felt that was, quite frankly, a little bit of a waste of time, a little bit of a contradiction to what I just said. But if I'm recruiting and a D1 in Virginia are recruiting, I got to him 3 months prior and he wanted to live in Virginia. And then, Coach Tiffany calls him September 1st. We're probably out of the picture. I think they should be on the same time. I used to tell kids all the time, we wouldn't talk to you until after September 1st because we wanted some dust to settle in your recruiting process. And now, but now with the cordial rules, you can talk to 2027s as long as they reach out to you first. You can't kind of like go after them, but you can reach out to them, and I think it's okay to a point. I think for the Division Ones, is it needed? Is it not? I don't know. I wouldn't just with the background I have in health and human performance. Am I really recruiting a sophomore? Probably not. You typically hit another growth spurt around 17, 18 anyway. So let's see what happens. But for some kids, I see the value in it. And, if you are a local kid and, you want to stay close to home and maybe parent was an alumni of your program and you kind of check all the boxes already, I like that you can start to reach out to them, and talk to them and kind of tell them a little bit about your program so you can kind of get them in the wheel well a little bit earlier. I think it really is a lower end on the totem pole situation, but you do have those situations, funny enough, aside from coaching in Texas for MCLA, this is the first area of the country I've ever coached in that I can go to a high school game on a Wednesday night. In the Midwest, the closest high school game was 2.5 hours away. In Colorado, the closest high school game was 3.5 hours away. I just crossed the state border into Tennessee, and I'm at a high school game every Wednesday if I wanted to be. I just drive slightly up the road, up 81 in Virginia. I could be at high school games. So this is the first time that I can recruit locally. And those local kids that do fit those barometers, or maybe just kids in general who fit those barometers, I think it's good just because you're not leaving a kid hanging. Because we were talking a little bit before we started recording. College coaches' lives are busy to a level you couldn't even fathom. I assure you, even if practice is done by 5 and we're home by 5:30, we're not done. Recruiting exists in 3 time zones. If you're only in America, Australia is on a whole complete opposite of us. England is ahead of us, and both of those are starting to get pretty good at lacrosse, and those kids want to come over, have been for many years. So just because our workday is done at 5:30 doesn't mean we're done. We're breaking down film, we're talking to recruits and all that. So when we were talking prior, we said, if a kid reaches out to a program and they don't really hear back right away, maybe follow up in the same email, which is a phenomenal idea. Our lives are busy, so we may not get to those kids right away. But I like that we have the opportunity to. Because if that kid is as a sophomore already kind of flying on our radar, it used to suck going, oh man, your dad graduated from here? Oh, he played here? That's awesome. We'll talk to you in September. And then you just forget. And that kid's just sitting on pins and needles because they're terrified to email coaches in most cases. These kids are looking over their emails for every spelling error, every this, every that. Oh, hopefully he gets to me. And in my world, I saw it. I might have accidentally opened it just while I'm on my phone, glanced at it real quick. Something came up. Today, I had to run to Lowe's for paint. Something might have come up. And I completely forget, and that kid never responds again. So I like that we have the opportunity to, just because our lives get busy, our emails get overloaded. the recruiting is a 24/7 operation, and the time of year. If a kid emails me Friday night before a game on Saturday, I'm not seeing that thing till Monday at the earliest. So I like that we have those opportunities. I do understand that there will be ways to exploit it, and I hate seeing I'm going to get roasted from some NCAA coaches. I understand that there is no honor amongst thieves, so to speak, but we do want the best interests of the kids, and we do want them to be at the right school, at the right place, at the right time. So we don't want to leave them hanging either. But
yeah,
we'll see. That's my opinion on it.
100%. And like you said, the only way to truly win this game is you have to be your biggest champion. You have to reply within that same email. Keep getting yourself to the top of their inbox every 7, 10, 14, 21 days, whatever your rhythm might be for the number of colleges you're interested in. But just keep killing these recruiting coaches with kindness. Let them know you passed this test. Let them know you had a great game with these numbers. Let them know you watched their game against XYZ University and you saw something you liked. Just continue the thread, because ultimately and eventually, the psychology side, coming back, they're going to see 25, 35, 45 emails in a conversation thread. And they're going to be like, oh, this kid really does want to come here. Look at this. Oh, now I have time. I have 5.5 minutes to read these emails instead of
100%.
Instead of 35 minutes to try to find 45 individual emails from this one kid. It's a whole lot easier. And you got to realize the greatest of time managers don't even exist in lacrosse. So you have to know these guys are pulled every which way. Like you said, paint, a GA class. They have to go to an HR meeting. They have to go to this recruiting event. They have to drive to the airport to go to that plane, to go to that event. You've just got to continue. Yeah. You've got to be top of mind for them, because eventually over the course of your recruiting process, it's going to be there. And the advice, like you talk about these kids waiting on pins and needles, you're always going to be waiting for a reply. The worst reply you're going to get is going to be, thank you for your interest, but you're not the right fit, but we think you're going to be a fit here, here, and here. Like that's realistically one of the, like, it's either going to be great, we want you. It's going to be, thanks for replying, come to our prospect day. Thanks for replying, come to our prospect day, over and over and over. And it's a form reply. Or it's going to be, hey, Jimmy, I really love following your career path. I love following all the updates. I really appreciate it. We might be already full at your position at your grade class or whatever the situation is. But knowing what I know about you now, I would really suggest you check out X, Y, and Z school down the road, because I think they're going to be a better fit. And more coaches are doing that because they want the reputation of being the nice guy. Like you said, for your players, being the nice guy costs nothing. Being the nice lacrosse coach costs nothing, and we need it in our sport, and more guys are realizing that.
Well, and not only that, but you've got now with the transfer portal, you've got
exactly. Like, why burn a bridge now when you get him back in 2 years?
You might be the coach of the kid's dream school, and you're like, gosh, I don't have a spot for you, but I know you're really motivated to come here. Here's a couple of schools that we kind of draw heavily from, and then so maybe that's helpful.
That's what I think Eric and I need to talk about now, because that's what we talked about last episode, and I talked to Marty Ward about it, and I talked to Rashad DeVoe about it as well. Now the game gets to be, it's almost like a minor league system. You know what?
Well,
my 26s are full.
To wait for the next one.
Exactly. And so you're like, hey, you know what, buddy? Go 2 years to this school, and by the time my attrition happens, injuries, dropouts, whatever, because there is math to that. Hey, maybe you're 25 pounds heavier and you're 0.3 of a second faster, and then all of a sudden you fit my system. And now you've got 2 years, you've got your associates, you did it for cheaper. Now you can come to Emory and Henry. Now you can come to XYZ University. You can transfer to Virginia. If D1's your dream, don't give up on your dream anymore. And I think now this is where Eric gets to talk about how it's going to play out, because it's not D1 or bust by your senior year anymore. It's D1 or bust by your senior year of your college eligibility because now it's available to you. So let Eric talk about that.
Yeah. Hey guys, we are going to wrap on this one because we have been just on cruise control, and this is so much information. We're going to have to break this into a two-parter potentially, but
love it.
We definitely need to reattack this, and Eric will probably have to do it at the end of the season because, like you said, a college coach's work is never done. But yeah, let's talk about real quick, if you can, hit that that eligibility, the NCAA rules, and how those changes and those updates have affected you.
Well, some of those, to my knowledge, and again, 18 freshmen have been pretty focused on some other things. But I know the NCAA has thrown out some changes in legislation regarding some things, and then some judges down in Texas decided some things. And I think it's all got to kind of like wrap up into a nice little ball here in the next couple months. I know some of it's tied to House versus NCAA, but it sounds like roster caps will most likely be a thing. And I know the Ivy League already announced, we're not dealing with this. We're not doing it. We're doing our own thing, but they've always done their own thing. I do think if those roster caps become a reality, and some of the conversations we're having with Division I coaches is, man, we love you to death, but you don't fit into our plans anymore because you can't. Not because we don't love you, not because we don't think you can do it, but maybe we have 4 deep at that position, and math says we can only have 3, because those are going to be kind of finite numbers for the NCAA if they go through. I think for lacrosse, they proposed 48. Most Division I rosters right now are about 55. You're going to take your guys, you're going to take a couple chances, you're going to take a couple walk-ons. Those won't be choices anymore. So that cusp kid that was like, he was definitely D1 bound, and maybe he reached for an ACC school. If they don't have a plan in place for him, or maybe another kid came in his class who's just a little bit better, he's going to have to go. And I think you're going to see a lot of trickle-down effect, more so depending on what happens with the actual ruling with JUCOs. Mm-hmm. You're going to have some opportunities to postpone it, which any good coach is going to say, hey, maybe we don't have space for you this year, but if you go here, because again, small community, we all know each other, maybe if you go here for a year, we can reevaluate at the end of the year. Yeah. It's going, what I think is actually going to end up happening is a little bit of a trickle down effect for a couple years until we figure all this out, because as college coaches, we're also rolling with the punches. And that's what a lot of people don't understand is, when we see this breaking news, we're also going, okay, how does that factor in? Well, let me call this guy. How do you think it's going to work? How do you think it's going to work? How do you think it's going to work? By the end of some phone carousel, we kind of think we have an idea, because the NCAA never elaborates on anything until it's too late. And then we kind of get a picture of what it's going to look like.
So and people have to understand, this has never happened before. Like at this rate,
no.
It's so much new information at in such a short time period that nobody can keep up. I mean, look at the college football playoff, right? We went from the BCS championship to the national, back to the AP choices, right? Then to the national championship 4 to 12, and now they're already talking about 16. And I mean, that's just a crazy talk. Now you're talking about recruiting for lacrosse, tennis, golf. We're all like, wait, what? What did you hear? What did you hear? Wait, who do you know at what event? What department? Okay, that's cool.
Mm-hmm. And it gets a little frustrating, because I'm a firm believer in that if you disrupt the ecosystem too much, it all comes down. But yeah, in the span of 4 and 5 years, you went from the very stereotypical college athlete, might get an athletic scholarship, might not. At our level, probably never even close to a full ride, but you might get some money, you might not. To, well, now you're guaranteed a roster spot. Now you might be guaranteed a full ride plus an NIL package plus this, but you only have so many spots. And I think it really throws a wrench into every coach's plan, because we're already planning 2 and 3 years ahead. it just by the nature of the beast of recruiting, we are planning 2 and 3 years ahead.
At least.
And now we planned for this. We had, September 1st happened. We had 12 verbal commits. NCAA comes down with a rule, and now we have to really pick and choose which 6 are leaving and which 6 are staying. And we got to make those phone calls. Division II won't be as affected. Usually the NCAA will rule for the Division I first before they bring down rules to others. But every school said the same thing, and they're doing this all at the same time, where there's a whole factor of college athletics and higher education athletics that don't factor into this at all. And that is, we are approaching an admissions cliff here in the next couple of years. The recession happened 20 years ago, and there will be a small dip in enrollment numbers. So you've got these schools that for years, I don't care if they were D1, D2, or D3. You have these schools that for years were planning on maybe 55 guys on the lacrosse roster. Well, the NCAA just said you can have 48. Well, those last 7 guys were paying full tuition. That was money going into the school, going into the athletics budgets, going into this and that. And now, so even these schools, even at that level, these schools are pivoting on a dime based on what these rule changes are. And so that's an hour and 40 minutes of overwhelming. But there are some pros to it, like that. Like, hey, that D1 or bust kid, now that mentality has to change tenfold. Because if school A filled up their class in 4 hours, because that's what you're going to start to see, they're not going to do the late May phone call like they were doing for the past few years, because they've got 5 kids on their team right now that they're debating on keeping or cutting. And if that kid says, man, I'd really like to stay, please don't cut me. Well, that's done, in most cases.
Plus or minus 3 to 5 more that they have to math and figure, are they staying or are they not? Do we even know they're on the fence? Like now, because it's just such an unknown, and the trickle down effect is real, I think. And what I am positive for in my crystal ball, and we're going to go back to the MCLA shout out. I think this benefits the MCLA more than anybody at any division, because now kids are going to be frustrated. They're not going to understand the system. They're going to get bored with it. They're going to get frustrated, whatever you want to call it. And they're going to go, you know what? I want to go to SCC school. I want to go to Big 12 school, Big 10 school. I want to play lacrosse a couple days a week. That's fun. And now I think you're going to see these MCLA teams get bigger. You've already seen it. I've got kids that email me back or like even on my own team, hey, Big 10 University MCLA teams emailing me from a tournament. Like we went to a tournament and they're emailing me, not the NCAA D3, D2, but the MCLA team is recruiting now. And I think more of that's going to happen because they see the writing on the wall. And now that the MCLA allows you to have 1, 2, 3 divisions of teams within your own school now, they're just going to take everything they can and they're going to run the programs as best they can now. Mm-hmm. I mean, A&M's got 3 teams this year? A D1, a D2, and a D3, if I'm not mistaken. Texas A&M.
I don't know. I'll believe you.
Yeah,
I know it's 2 for sure. I know it's D1 and D2 for sure, and I think they're either toying with a D3 or it might be the satellite schools, the D3. But I mean, there's programs now. There's programs. I mean, South Carolina used to carry 68, 70 kids on that roster. University of South Carolina. Now they got 2. Georgia Tech's able to have 2. At different schools are able to split it up now. And kids can play for the love of the game and get the degree they want at the school they want to be at.
Air Force Academy has a D1 team.
Air Force.
MCLA team. Yep.
Mm-hmm. North Carolina does as well. They just played Tennessee. Mm-hmm. It's fantastic.
All right, guys. This has been awesome.
That was so much.
Yeah, seriously. But the thing is, it's all good. And everybody who's hopefully stuck with us this long has gotten so much out of it, because there really is a lot of valuable information there. And if you're the parent of a player or even a coach who's got players interested, these are the kinds of things and the kinds of conversations you need to be having with your player, with the parents, with your future college coaches. You need to be asking them about strength and conditioning. You need to be asking them about academics and scheduling and tutors and what they can expect from their coach, kind of communication. So, Coach Eric, real quick, let's. I have 2 final questions, And they're short answers, so it's not going to take long. First is, who else do we, as First City Lacrosse, need to be talking to?
Every college coach in America you can. We all have slightly differing opinions, and we all live in different locations in America, so our answers would be varied.
Yeah.
So all of them.
Well, that's true and also false, because every college coach I've ever talked to, when I ask them, hey, what are you looking for? The very first thing they say is academics. So that's the first thing.
I love that.
You got to have grades. You got to have the grades, right?
Okay, then can I throw you out a serious answer?
Yeah, please.
Because you guys were so interested in it, anybody on the National Strength and Conditioning Lacrosse SIG would be great.
Okay.
We all live very busy lives, but there are a few, and we're an eclectic bunch. We cover international, college, high school, youth, all of it. And that is at NSCA_Lacrosse SIG on Instagram. We cover everything. We go over a new topic once a month on a Zoom. Everyone is invited. And I think it's very insightful for coaches who just maybe need to know some stuff.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. I'll drop that that Instagram link in the show notes. And the last question is, if someone wants to get a hold of you as far as college lacrosse or coming to your school or just asking some general questions, what's the best way for them to do that?
I'm really bad on social media. I'm trying to get better, but my email address is on the website, and I check my email about 1,000 times a day. My wife gets really annoyed about it.
Sure.
So that is EJ Ruppel at emoryandhenry.edu, and it is on gowasps.com. But my assistant coaches are great at Instagram, and if you wanted to reach out to them, at Emory Henry MLax.
Emory Henry MLax.
Yes, there are two. That's the one you want to follow. We had to get rid of the old one.
Okay. Guys,
gotta keep up. It's 2025. Gotta keep up with the times.
Casey, thank you for being here. Really, honestly, Casey, thank you for connecting us. This has been a lot of fun and very informational, and I always love adding people into our First City Lacrosse circle. So I'm grateful to be a part of your circle now, Eric.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. Casey, any parting shots for everybody?
Keep working your offhand, hit the wall, keep practicing, do it till you can't get it wrong, and keep doing it some more.
Great advice from the man, Coach Mack. All right, everybody. As always, you can find me, John, Jon, at firstcitylax.com. It's the easiest way to catch me. It's just email. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, any place you listen to podcasts. We are the same thing on every single platform at First City Lax. That's 1STCITYLAX. I had to think about it for a second. I'm good at sports, not good at words. All right.
I love it.
Hey, everybody. Like we said earlier, get your reps in. Be a good human. We will see you all next time. Coach Eric, Coach Casey, thank you very much.
If you like what you hear, drop us a like and follow wherever you downloaded this podcast from, and on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at First City Labs. Check back every week for more content. Thank you for being a part of the First City Lacrosse podcast.